Welcome back into Sports Talk Chicago. I'm Joey Christopoulos. Follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Let's bring in our guest, my longtime co-host, making his appearance here in Sports Talk Chicago to talk Chicago Bears and all thing NFL. He is CHGO's very own. He is West End Golf Club's very own. He is former Bears defensive end, former Northwestern Wildcats standout, my neighbor, the Northwestern Wildcats right down the street. It's Corey Wootton. What's up, Corey?
Joey, what's going on, man? A lot has changed. You know, you're not in Cali anymore. Now you're back to the Windy City, or the burbs, that is, in Evanston, right down the street, like you said, from my alma mater, Northwestern. So, you know, you've always been a Cats fan, and we've always seen eye to eye on a lot of things. So now you're back to your home city. I know your family is happy, so it's good to be back for you, right? I bet.
It's a wild experience. And to be honest with you, I'm having a blast. Like, we're newbies about it, you know what I mean? So we're trying to take advantage of everything that we can every single moment. But yeah, man, like, bring in the purple paint, because these walls come September, they're going up, my man. And honestly, like, I'm excited to see what their demo stadium is going to be like on the lakefront. They're rebuilding the whole thing there. Maybe in 4 or 5 years, we get a new stadium on the lakefront for the Chicago Bears. We'll see what happens. It's an exciting time. So yeah, Corey, man, let's start it off super general. I just want to get your initial thoughts on the summer of Caleb right now, what your thoughts were out of minicamp. And I do want to kind of dive into a little bit of what you've seen from Caleb Williams off the field a little bit too as well, because it's been intriguing, and I'm definitely excited, but I want to get your take too as well.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of ups and downs, kind of like what we expected. I mean, he's going against arguably one of the best secondaries and linebacking core in all of the NFL. So I think there's going to be some pains of learning. He's going from being familiar with the whole scheme and players in college to now trying to get on the same page with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore and company, the timing, the rhythm of everything. So I think this is what we expected, some growing pains. And I said, pump the brakes. He's got to get accustomed to this faster play of the NFL, the new playbook, getting on the same page. It does take time. You know, I think at times we've seen him look great, other times not so much. And I think that's what you're going to see early on for Caleb Williams. I think anybody that figured he was just going to come in day one, sling the rock and be amazing, that's unrealistic. And this time of the year is where you get to figure things out. It's OTAs. It's the underwear Olympics in a sense, the mini camp, and you're not in pads. None of this really matters. It's just good to get on the same page with receivers and just build that camaraderie, build that familiarity. But yeah, I think what I've heard from, you know, the defense and different players in the offense, it seems like he's doing well. He's liked in the locker room, and that was a concern, I think, for a lot of people. Was, hey, is he going to fit in? Right. The whole thing was, is he a diva? Is he this? So right now we haven't seen any of that, and I think all the signs are positive. I feel like he's carried himself well in all the interviews. And obviously, right, this isn't a time of the year where it's stressful or it even really matters in the scheme of things. But obviously, as things unfold during training camp and hopefully in the offseason workouts together and that time off, he gets together with the wide receivers and they get on the same page a little bit more, run through the routes, get the rhythm and timing. And that's all what it is. It's just building that bond together. And I think once they can do that, all the pieces to the puzzle are there, right? The wide receiver core, the tight end core, the running back core, revamped offensive line, all the signs are pointing great for the Bears offensively. It's now going to be, how does Caleb come into this role? How does he improve from now to training camp to the season so he can hit the ground running?
I wanted to get your take on something, and look, we're talking about mini camp here right now. We can only really extract so much out of something, as you mentioned, you know, the underwear Olympics right now. And not to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I really loved what Matt Eberflus said last week, and I don't know if you caught it, Corey, but they asked him a question, and I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but they asked him how he was going to balance Caleb's exposure playing against the number one defense and the twos on defense. And Flus came out and said, I want to get him as many reps against the ones as possible, and he's going to keep running him out there. I want to get your take on that because I feel like sometimes maybe a coach will try and get a rookie quarterback against the twos to kind of build him up a little bit, get his confidence going, and then throw him against the ones. But Flus said, no, I want to get him used to that speed as quick as he can. I want him getting used to that competition and that talent. I don't know. I think that's a really smart move on Eberflus's angle to try and have him go up against the ones as most as possible. What was your take on maybe that response from Flus?
I love it. Iron sharpens iron. You're going again. Like I mentioned earlier, one of the best defensive back secondary in the whole league, linebacking core as well. It's only going to get you better, and that's what you want. As a player, you want to go against the best. It's going to make you better. So sometimes you got to get thrown in the fire, right? They say the analogy when you're a kid, teach a kid how to swim, you throw him in the pool. And, I think they're doing the same thing with Caleb because you never want to go against the twos where you know it's lesser competition. You can maybe get his confidence up. But I think the is working him with the best competition out there with his ones, which are some of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And like I said earlier, iron sharpens iron. So I think it's a great thing. He's only going to get better from this. And then when he goes against other teams, he's like, wow, this was a lot easier because when you go against the best, everything else at that point is easier from then. So I love that. And I think it's just unrealistic for people to think that Caleb Williams is going to come in here and light it up. This is not realistic, right? That's not the norm. It takes time. And I think with the offseason now, everything's so limited is you don't get the same reps that you got 20 years ago with your wide receiver core. You don't have the same type of meetings and schedule. Everything is less, right? We're less training camp. We're less offseason. We're less this. So what you see every year, and we've talked about this a bunch, is the first couple of weeks of the season is pretty awful as far as fundamental football. Like penalties are through the roof.
False starts.
Turnovers at an all-time high. The whole just because there's not as many reps. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they struggled the first 5 weeks of the season. Like didn't look like themselves at all. I think a lot of that is because of the offseason and limited reps during training camp and all that. Like back then, when I was playing, you used to, the first game would be you play a series. Second game, you play a couple series. Third game would be the dress rehearsal. You play a full half. You best on their best. And then that fourth game, you kind of sat out. But I feel like people were ready for the season. Nowadays, it's like the starters never play in the preseason. And I don't think there's many people that can not play all preseason, then come in, hit the ground running, regardless of how talented you are. So I'm hoping this preseason they really give Caleb some exposure while keeping him upright, allow him to get reps, but not allow him to get hit in the preseason. Mm-hmm. I think if they could get some of those rhythm and timing throws, just get him comfortable with the speed, especially playing against other people. Because in practice, at the end of the day, if somebody gets beat, you're not going to get blindsided in the game. If that happens, you're getting your head knocked off. So it's just a different game nowadays, and I'm just hoping that they give him those reps in live action. That way, he gets comfortable with that speed of the game.
Yeah, and the good news is also they have the Hall of Fame game, so they get a little extra bite at the apple. Where I'm not saying that he's going to get more reps necessarily, but at least he gets a different look at a different team. And look, man, I haven't seen you in a little while, but man, I've been beating the drum. I'm so glad we're on the same page with this of just, we all have to calm down. I'm so excited for the Caleb Williams era to begin in Chicago. But if you look at, even start with, the chosen one, CJ Stroud from last year, he was 0-2 as a starter before he won his first game. Imagine if Caleb Williams goes 0-2 this season for the Chicago Bears, the sky will be falling. So we all have to try and put this in perspective as best we can. A lot of these rookie quarterbacks, even the number one picks, struggle a little bit out of the gate, but are able to flash enough that gives you a lot of optimism moving forward. I wanted to ask you something. This is kind of a newer one really quick. Mercedes Lewis just re-signed with the Chicago Bears for Corey, his 19th season. Think about that. 19 seasons in the NFL. Obviously a locker room presence. I wanted to ask you, though, about a little bit of the revamp that's gone on in this tight end room with Gerald Everett. Obviously, Cole Kmet coming back, but Mercedes Lewis. As a former Bears defensive end, can you kind of enlighten us a little bit more on what it means to have Mercedes Lewis out there on the field, what he can do for chip help. His pass block rate was actually really high last year. What does he bring to the table, and why is that a good move for the Chicago Bears?
He's basically an extra offensive lineman in there. So when I was playing, he was one of the best blocking tight ends in the game, still is to this day. Really physical guy, 6'7", probably 285 pounds, really strong, and one of those guys that's a road grader up there. So he just adds a different element in the run game, in the pass game, because he can block a defensive end. Essentially, yeah, an extra offensive lineman. So I think he brings a different presence than Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett is the pass catcher. Cole Kmet's a combo guy. He can do it all, and he can catch the ball. He's just not a burner. So you have three very different guys, and I think all will be utilized. And Shane Waldron really loves to utilize the tight end. And there's a lot of 2 tight end sets, whether there's chip help, whether the tight end staying in on one side. So I think the Bears are prime. This has been the best Bears roster as far as weapons I think we've ever seen in the history of the Bears franchise. I really do. I stand on that statement. You look at the wide receiver trio, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, two of the best receivers in the league. Obviously, Rome Odunze has not played in the NFL, but him being the number 3 receiver on the team behind those two, I think he's only going to elevate his game. So on paper, they have arguably the best receiver trio, have a great tight end trio as well, because you got all the fastest covered. You got the blocker, you got the combo guy in Cole Kmet, and then you got the guy that can stretch the field in Gerald Everett that is very productive. And I think if he was in a different system throughout his career, who knows, he could be a guy that could be over 1,000 yards. He's that talented. So
Yeah.
I think the Bears, and then the running back room as well, Swift, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert. I mean, that 3-headed monster as well. It seems like the threes for the Bears, right? Running back, tight end, and wide receiver is a good situation. So I think at the end of the day, Caleb Williams in this offense is going to do well. The question is how well. And ultimately, the bar has been very low for offensive success in quarterback position. So I think ultimately it's going to be better than what we've seen. They finally surrounded the quarterback with talent, finally have a better offensive line, all the pieces of the puzzle there, a top defense. All the signs are pointing to this should be a playoff caliber team. There's no doubt they should have made the playoffs last year, despite how bad they played at times. Joey, they should have had 10 wins last year. Yep. So there's no doubt that they'll make the playoffs this year. It's just going to be, okay, how is Caleb Williams going to progress? And that's the key. And I think people just need to pump the brakes and just have realistic expectations. And if he lights it up, great. But if he doesn't, let's pump the brakes and not say, oh, this was the worst pick ever and all this. It takes time. You know, Rome wasn't built overnight, just like Caleb Williams and this Bears offense. So it's going to take time to get everything on the same page, get together, and have all cylinders fire.
Real quick before we get over, I want to get over to some general NFL really quick with Corey Wootton here on Sports Talk Chicago. You were talking about building really quick on just Caleb Williams. I just want to get your thoughts on Caleb off the field really quick, just because I got to tell you, I've been super impressed. I mean, I don't know if it's because of some of the things that we heard and some of the things that we've now seen, but everything from showing up to DJ Moore's kids camp in Deerfield to going to, Old Crow Smokehouse to hang out with some fans, to even now what it came out on, I believe it was Monday, that he found out that a fan ordered a jersey on Fanatics on draft night. Didn't get the jersey, and they told him it wasn't going to be there till late September. So Caleb gets on the horn, gets on a video, and says, we're going to get that jersey to you as quick as we can and take you to a game. When you're talking about building something in goodwill in the city of Chicago, Corey, you know it better than anyone else, and you know what it means to be representative of the city of Chicago off the field, too, as well. Caleb Williams kind of acing the test off the field right now, correct?
He's doing great, and I think there was concern based off probably – mostly rumors. I think it was just I don't know. It was just a weird situation because when he was first coming out through that whole evaluation, people said he wasn't a leader. People didn't like him. He wasn't the best guy. But it seems like he's a very stand-up guy. It seems like he's doing great things, and that's what leaders do. So I think a lot of it was probably a lot of smoke and mirrors and stuff to kind of deceive people, but. He seems like a great person, and he's starting off his career in the right way. And I think he's leaving a favorable impression on fans. And it's awesome to see because at the end of the day, NFL players get paid a king's ransom because of the fans. And you always have to remember that. That's why when I played, like, always tried to sign as many autographs. Even to this day, if I see people that recognize me, try to sign because they were the reason that we got paid the way we do and we got the exposure. And it's because of the fans. Sometimes they spend their hard-earned money. You know, Chicago is a very working-class city in some regards. People that, basically all their money was spent for Bears tickets, Bears this, Bears that. So you got to remember that at the end of the day. And I think it's awesome to see him do that and do other things to help out the community, other players as well. And it seems like he's on the track to be a great leader for this Bears. And a big thing, like, people were speculating, well, if he's not a captain year one, oh, that means he's not a true. Let's pump the brakes. There's a lot of veteran guys on the team that probably deserve it more than Caleb Williams. So let's not get it twisted, right? There's a lot of veteran guys that have been in the league that have been leaders. So I wouldn't say if he doesn't get captain, that's the end of the world, right? Like, I don't think so by any means. All he has to do is keep showing up, keep doing what he's doing, be a leader out there, and then let his play speak for him. I think that's all he can do. And I think all the signs are pointing in the right way. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do during the games when it really matters.
Yeah, when I think of leadership, I don't think of recognition. So the C on the jersey right there doesn't mean that whether you're a leader or not. I want to ask you just some general NFL news and notes. The first one, the easy one, is the Justin Jefferson news that came down last week, signing a massive deal, Corey. I don't really need your take. I'm curious. I think you think Justin Jefferson's a fantastic player. I'm just kind of curious what your vibe is on where this is going for NFL players in general, specifically at the wide receiver position. Is this a bubble that might eventually burst? And maybe how does this also relate to a guy like DJ Moore, a talented wide receiver that could be coming up for money in the next year or two?
Yeah, I don't think it will burst because you look at the number one thing that every team wants is the number one receiver. They got to have it. For years, the Bears didn't have it until they finally got DJ Moore. So I think it's arguably one of the more valuable positions besides quarterback and left tackle and dominant pass rusher. I think that, obviously receiver is up there as well. So that's kind of the trend. You need the number one receiver, you need a quarterback, you need a left tackle, and you need a pass rusher. So I don't think that's going anywhere. I don't think that's going to pop. But yeah, Justin Jefferson, I mean, unbelievable, his playmaking ability. He's such an X factor when he's out there. And then DJ Moore, right? You mentioned his contract coming up soon. If he continues playing the way he is, he's going to – it's like the quarterback was the next guy up, the next guy up. Sometimes there's guys that maybe aren't in that A tier that are maybe B tier and get paid like A tier. It just seems like the next guy up.
Is DJ Moore, if he performs again like he did last year, he was a fantastic last year, is he a $30 million receiver? Is that kind of where we're going?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's what this league is becoming, especially if he does. So it's one or two things, right? So there are some teams that feel like they can have maybe essentially two number twos and the number three, or some teams that have to have the number one. It's going to be interesting. Like for some teams, they're like, I don't want to pay that much money when I can get, a tight end that's dominant and maybe two number two receivers. But if I'm a team, I got to have a number one receiver. I do. I think I have to have a number one receiver, a dominant pass catching tight end, and a really good slot receiver. Those are my gotta have it's. And obviously every other team has, your thunder and lightning back, the kind of change of pace guy, the downhill, the one that can catch the ball in the backfield. But I think if DJ Moore has a great year, he's going to command a big contract. And I think he's that dominant and he should get paid accordingly because that's what the league is going. So you have to get paid according to that.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you. Jamar Chase, I think, is the next one with the big payday coming up. And then, I was curious because the running backs, obviously, there was a cap, and then obviously it fell backwards. I don't really see that coming from the wide receiver class. Maybe they won't get the 40 million, but I think the 30 million range is probably maybe where it settles at the end of
Yeah,
the day in terms of guaranteed dollars on a year-to-year basis.
yeah,
So no, it's an exciting time to be a wide receiver, that's for sure, and that's why you always see now like Justin Jefferson could have been a running back 20 years ago, but
yeah,
now he's making 35 plus as a wide
yeah.
receiver.
Think about the running back position. It used to be one of the most coveted positions in the NFL. It's one that commanded a lot of respect, dollars, and nowadays it's an afterthought because it's running back by committee. There are so many good running backs. Like think about the Bears. Like just in their past couple of years, they've had such talented backs. Like this person goes out, then this person comes on. Literally, there's 3 or 4 guys on every team that can, like Dante Foreman, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert. They were all,
Jordan
arguably
Howard, David
Jordan
Montgomery, I
Howard.
mean,
Yeah,
those were all successful players and they moved on from them without thinking twice.
exactly. Because you can always find somebody new. Like I feel like running backs, they're easy to come by, but a left tackle, dominant pass rusher, a number one receiver, and a number one dominant quarterback. Those are hard to find. Like
Yeah.
think about the quarterback position, how hard it is to find a dominant quarterback. And the teams that do, you look at Green Bay, why they were so good for so many years. They had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and now they got Jordan Love that looks like he's the next big thing. So they've hit 3-on-3 for quarterbacks. And I think that has a lot to do with not only their scouting team, but their development, like their coaching staff. They develop talent well. And we've talked about this a bunch. The Bears for so long didn't develop the offensive talent the same way they did defense for years, right? Since the 80s, they were known for developing defensive talent. Since even George Halas days, early on in the NFL, a lot of defensive talent offensively kind of just got by, right? They had Walter Payton, arguably the best running back. But other than that, they weren't known for developing offensive talent like that. And Green Bay has done such a good job. Like think about all the receivers that they've had that maybe if they went to other teams, they wouldn't have been what they were. Right? It was just the right system. You look at Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, Freeman, all these guys throughout the years that probably would have been middle of the pack receivers for other teams, turn them into studs.
Yeah.
Greg Jennings. I think they developed talent so well and they had such a great system that they allowed these players to get the best. And the Patriots did stuff like that as well. Julian Edelman, like not to take anything from his career, but if he was anywhere else, he would not be who he is. Same thing with Wes Welker. Same thing with Amendola. It's just like their system and their development and putting their players in a position to succeed. They did that so well. And that's what I'm hoping this trend of the Bears, what they're building and putting together is now they have the talent. Can they have the scheme and the coaching to get the best out of that talent and take it to the next level? Right, because I think the goal is the Bears have never had really a top 5 offense rather. Right, yeah. I think maybe the one year with Adam Gase, right?
They were the 3rd ranked offense with Tressman, and I believe 13 or 14, one of the two. So I don't know if that was the last year that you were there. Yeah.
So that's something that the Bears have done like one time probably in their history. So think about like all the talent that they have now. Can they make that a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense as well? Because that's something that we've never had, a balanced attack across the board. And if that's something they can do, man, that's scary to think about.
Corey, I said on a show last week, if you give me a defense that's ranked 8 to 10, and if you give me an offense that's in the 15 to 16 range, that is something that the Chicago Bears haven't seen in a very long time. And I think that's a competitive balance that automatically makes them a playoff team. We are short on time, but you were talking about next level. So I got one more question for you right now. If you want to disagree with this is fine, because the betting odds right now have the San Francisco 49ers as the most likely team to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Therefore, probably in a power rankings, San Francisco is probably number 1. If you don't agree with that, let me know. But my question for you more is, who's number 2? Is there a second team? Every single year, another team rises up that maybe you didn't see coming from the year before. Who maybe is, do you have a dark horse team that you kind of really like in the NFC right now? Or who do you think that number 2 team is in the NFC as it stands today, here in June?
I think probably the Detroit Lions. I mean, based off what they're building there. Yeah, I think they really are building something special. I just think Dan Campbell and company, Jared Goff, how he's run that offense. They're starting to build all the pieces to the puzzle. They believe, they know they can win now. They're disappointed because they should have been in that Super Bowl game if maybe he took the points in that situation. They played so well in that game. They should have won. So I have them as the number 2 team in the NFC.
Man, can't believe it. It hurts, but I understand. I still have questions a little bit about their secondary, but yeah, no, obviously the NFC North, if we're not careful, the Chicago Bears also get good. That could also all of a sudden turn into some type of powerhouse there in the NFC North. Yeah. Corey, we got to get you out of here, man. Thank you so much for hopping on Sports Talk Chicago. Great to see you, my friend. Make sure you follow Corey Wootton at Corey Wootton, 2 O's, 2 T's. Get it right. Good to see you, my friend. Happy summer. Love the beard. Keep up the good work. Hope to see you soon.
Definitely, my man. Always good kicking it with you. We got to do this more often, my man.
Yeah. I'll see you this summer. Maybe we'll get on the links too as well. We'll see what happens. We're in the same state now.
Take it easy, bro.
We're coming back with one more segment here on Sports Talk Chicago. Stick around. We will be right back. That'll do it here on Sports Talk Chicago. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining. I'm Joey Christopoulos. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. I want to thank my guest today, former Bears defensive end Corey Wootton. You can follow him at Corey Wootton, 2 O's, 2 T's. Make sure you get it right. Love having Corey on, man. I've always loved his perspectives. Look, he's always been a meat and potatoes football analyst, but honestly, when it comes down to it, we could talk all we want about all the gaudy weapons and all the stuff that sometimes these teams like to throw out there, but sometimes those fundamentals are what's important, and getting his perspective was really huge. I am really curious to see as we move forward throughout the summer, just how everything unfolds, especially in training camp. I've said this before on other shows before, but the thing that I'm praying with Caleb Williams is that my whole life, whether I'm reading the Chicago Tribune that's being placed on my doorstep, or whether I'm hearing something on the radio, or for someone that's at training camp, you always hear someone come back and say, how's the quarterback look? And they always kind of go, it would be Jeff Dickerson, one of my favorite scribes of all time, rest in peace. He'd always go, well, guys, it kind of looked like this. It looked a little uneven, trying to spin it on an optimistic level. I would love nothing more than to have someone report from training camp this year and just say, hey, Caleb looks good. That's all I want. Caleb looks good. He looks in control. He has confidence. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to hit the ground running. We'll see if it happens, and if it doesn't, look, he's a rookie quarterback. But that is my hope and dream, that one day someone will come home from a training camp and say that a Chicago Bears quarterback actually looks good in said training camp. But look, right now when we talk about all the off-field stuff, when we talk about even the on-field stuff in shorts with Caleb Williams, I mean, it's all ceiling right now. It's all dreams. It's all bubbles. It's all happiness. It's all optimism. So honestly, just try and enjoy it and absorb it right now, because nothing can really penetrate that until September when the games start to be played. So just enjoy the Caleb ride for right now. Obviously, as I mentioned before, I think he's doing everything right off the field. I think anyone on the outside that wants to bring up to a Chicago Bears fan about what about Caleb's leadership off the field and all the other kinds of stuff, to this point, you can't say that the dude's done anything wrong, right? I mean, at this point, he will eventually have to do stuff leadership-oriented to help the Chicago Bears win football games. But you just got to take it as it comes right now. And right now in June, Caleb Williams right now is acing the test of the summer. That's going to do it here on Sports Talk Chicago. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Thank you so much if you've been listening to us on any of our radio affiliates across the great state of Illinois. I want to give a shout out to 98.3 The Life, WKAN, W55 The Ticket, ACTV, JED TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9 Talk FM, or our newest one, 101.1 Peoria Sports Radio. I'm Joey Christopoulos. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy. I want to give a quick shout out to our producer, John Meadows, who does a fantastic job every single week. If you checked out our clip earlier this week, I'm going to try and come out of the weekend every single week and just do a quick hit just on our YouTube channel with our winners and losers in Chicago sports of the weekend. He did such a great job on that last video. And I'm also going to try and provide some more ancillary content beyond just the radio show. So if you're listening to us on the radio, make sure you head on over to YouTube. I'm going to have a bunch of extra content for you all summer there. I promise you, I'm just getting going. I just moved back home across the country from Los Angeles to Chicago after 14 years. I'm getting my life together. I promise you, more content is on the way. But until then, everyone, be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. Thank you so much for tuning in to Sports Talk Chicago. I'm Joey Christopoulos, and I am out of here.